Yo, 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 welcome back to the channel. It is your homie, the #1 Commanders fan in the whole known universe. And listen up because the calendar says March 1st, 2026, and free agency opens in exactly 10 days. Fam, 10 days. The clock is ticking, the cap space is sitting there, and the Commanders have so much work in front of them that just thinking about it makes you want to grab a triple coffee and grind film until 3 in the morning. And you know what? That is exactly what we did for you. Because this offseason is not like the others. This is not the let us just survive offseason. This is the offseason where Washington has to build something real around Jaden Daniels before that rookie contract clock starts getting loud. Adam Peters has around $82 million in projected cap space. Durante Jones is coming in with a brand new scheme, a new mind running the defense, and a needs list longer than the Constitution of the United States. So today, I am bringing you 3 stories that are shaping the direction of this franchise right now. One is about the defensive line, another about the backfield, and the third one, the third one has straight soap opera drama. Let us dive in. Raise hail. Okay, let us start where it hurts the most. The interior defensive line for the Commanders last year was a collective train wreck from a pass rush point of view. And it is not just me talking. The numbers are right there. Darren Payne, Javon Kinlaw, and Johnny Newton combined for only 10 sacks and 87 pressures the entire 2025 season. Bro, that is a stat line that already looks bad for one player. Imagine that being the combined production of your entire interior defensive line. It is almost offensive, and not the kind of offensive we want on the other side of the ball. Now there is a player who could hit the market very soon, and the timing could not be better if the Commanders play their cards right. We are talking about Javon Hargrave, veteran defensive tackle currently with the Minnesota Vikings. And when I say he could be available soon, I am not just speculating because this very March 1st, Adam Schefter confirmed, according to his sources, that the Vikings have informed both Hargrave and running back Aaron Jones that unless there is a trade, they will be released at the start of the league year this month. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game. On potential free agent, the Vikings would save $10.9 million against the cap by releasing Hargrave. That is a big number for a team that is literally in the red. Minnesota is sitting at about minus $40 million in cap space right now, fam. Commanders free agency rumors, 6 Vikings defenders that could reunite with Durante Jones. They have to make cuts. Restructures, basically massive financial surgery before they can even think about signing anybody. So Hargrave is going to get cut. The question is not if, it is when. And when that happens, the Commanders have to be ready. But why Hargrave specifically? Listen to this. In the 2025 season, this dude generated 31 pressures and 4 sacks on 295 pass rushing snaps. Commanders could land key off-season addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent for a team that got only 10 sacks and 87 pressures from its whole interior defensive line combined. Signing a single player who almost gives you that same production by alone is already a massive upgrade, and he does it in rotation. You do not need to run him out there for 70 snaps a game. You put him out there on third downs in nickel rusher packages, and suddenly your interior defensive line has something it did not have before, a real threat. Hargrave is 33 years old, and I know what you were thinking. Bro, 33, that is old. And I get that reaction, listen, but context matters. This is not a 2-gap tackle who has to be a physical freak in the run game 20 plays a game. Hargrave is a technical pass rusher with a spin move and a bull rush that are still effective because they are built on fundamentals, not just pure athletic explosiveness. Technique rushers age better than pure burst guys. And at this price, probably affordable on a 1 or 2 year deal, the risk is minimal. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent. There is another angle I love that people are not talking about enough. The mentorship factor for Johnny Newton. Newton was one of Washington's most promising recent draft picks and has the athletic profile to be special. But there is coaching needed. He needs exposure to the grind of being an interior rusher in the league week after week. Having Hargrave in the same locker room, in the same position room, in the same drill lines is an educational gift you cannot put a price on. This dude has years of know-how in aggressive defensive line systems. Exactly what Durante Jones is trying to build here. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent. And speaking of Jones, that is what makes this connection really clean. Durant Jones is coming from Minnesota, knows Hargrave, has seen how he works, knows what kind of player he is on and off the field. There is no learning curve for the system, no adaptation period to the defensive language. No, well, let us see how this fits. Jones can tell Hargrave exactly what is wanted, and Hargrave can execute from day one. That has real value in an offseason where the Commanders do not have time to waste if they want the new scheme to hit. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent +1. Now, where is the waiting game? Here's the tactical key, fam. The Vikings are still feeling out whether any team is willing to give up something in a trade for Hargrave. But reality is, with the depth everyone expects in the 2026 defensive tackle draft class, no team wants to pay a pick for somebody they can probably get for free in a few days, so odds are Hargrave gets cut. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent. The move for Washington is not calling Minnesota and asking for a trade right now. The move for Washington is to wait. Let the situation resolve itself and have the contract ready the day Hargrave hits the open market. That is what playing the waiting game the right way looks like. The cap space is there. The need is there. The connection with the coordinator is there, and the player is going to be there. If Adam Peters and the Commanders let this one go, fam, we need to have a serious conversation. This is one of those moves that does not demand some insane leap of faith because every factor is pointing the same direction. Javon Hargrave plus Durante Jones in Washington could be the piece that stabilizes an interior defensive line that last year was, let us be honest, pretty pathetic. And with free agency opening March 11th, the clock is ticking. Commanders could land key offseason addition for Durante Jones if they play waiting game on potential free agent +1. All right, fam, that was the most urgent defensive story of the day. But hold up, because what is coming next has to do with the other side of the ball, the offense. And there is a Midwest running back generating real buzz in Ashburn. Let us go. I know the running back discourse in modern football can get heated. A lot of people out there say running backs do not matter. The RB market is dead. Do not spend on running backs. And I understand that argument from a pure value perspective. But, and this is a big but, fam, when there is a young, talented quarterback going into a third year on a rookie contract who just had a 2025 season marked by injuries and lack of help, the whole equation shifts. Because what Jaden Daniels needs around is not just pass catchers. There has to be some relief. There has to be a run game that keeps defenses honest, and that is where David Montgomery comes in. Teddy Ricketson from Sporting News tagged the Commanders as one of the top trade fits for Detroit Lions running back David Montgomery. Montgomery is 28 years old, which in running back terms still puts that player in a high production band, especially for a team that does not need a solo workhorse but a shared load. The idea is that Montgomery and Jackery Kroski-Merritt form a two-back backfield that takes pressure off Daniels both in the passing game and in third and short spots. That is a setup that has worked in the league, bro. Two backs with different styles, complementing each other, forcing the opposing coordinator to prep for two real threats in the backfield. Let us look at Montgomery's 2025 numbers because they are not small. This player suited up for all 17 regular season games with Detroit, carried the rock 158 times for 716 yards and 8 touchdowns, averaging 4.5 yards a carry. On top of that, there were 24 catches for 192 more yards. That is a functional, consistent back who is not taking over the world, but is also not letting anyone down. It is exactly the kind of vet you can put next to a young talent and say, check how this player does it. Why would Detroit move this player? That is the million-dollar question, and honestly, there is no definite answer yet. The Lions have their own cap needs, and as an organization in contender mode, they might be looking at whether Montgomery is still part of the long-term plan or if they would rather clear that salary to invest in other positions. Montgomery's deal is valued around $18 million. which is the number all the speculation is built around. It is not superstar money, but it is not loose change either. For the Commanders, with that projected $82 million in cap room, it is manageable if Adam Peters decides running back is a real priority. And here's the part that gives me real tension as a fan: the competition. Ricketson mentions that the Commanders would not be the only team in the hunt for Montgomery. The Buffalo Bills, Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs, and Minnesota Vikings are all watching this situation. That is a serious list of organizations with cap space and real needs in the backfield. If Washington does not move fast and with conviction, someone else is going to grab Montgomery before the Commanders even get to the table. The tactical angle I like about this move: Jaden Daniels in 2024 showed that magic with the legs, that scrambling ability, that improvisation. But in 2025, with the injuries and without ground game help, all that weight dropped on those shoulders and we watched it collapse. A real running back. A player that defenses have to respect because that player can carry 20 times a game and still be effective, opens the passing game in ways no receiver alone can. It gives David Blau, the new offensive coordinator, play action and RPO tools that are devastating when the run threat is real. Is Montgomery the perfect answer? Not necessarily for the long term. 28 years old and running backs have a shelf life nobody escapes. But for right now, for this team, for this new offensive coordinator trying to put in a system while protecting a young quarterback, Montgomery might be exactly what is needed, not the flashy superstar. The player who shows up, handles business, does not ask for extra attention, and gives you 700 to 800 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns while letting Jaden Daniels light it up through the air. And Krosky Merritt next to that, fam. That 7th round, undrafted energy kid who shocked everyone in preseason and ended up being good but not great as a starter. With Montgomery teaching, guiding, that duo could turn into something special in 2 or 3 years. That is roster building vision, not just a quick patch. Adam Peters has to decide, is running back a real priority this offseason or not? If it is, the trade window for Montgomery is right now before the full-on competition heats up. If it is not, well, then the hope is that Krosky Merritt makes the jump alone. Personally, I would rather not sit back and then realize that jump never came when it is already too late. Raise hail, let us make the trade, fam. Okay, bro, now we're getting to the story with more drama than the whole Netflix catalog. A story about a receiver, a franchise tag, a quarterback in the middle, and the Commanders staring from the outside, waiting for something to go wrong so they can jump in. It is the Alec Pierce and Colts saga, and it is completely nuts. All right. Fam, let us step into Adam Peters' shoes for a second. You hit the offseason knowing you need a quality wide receiver to line up next to Terry McLaurin, because let us be real, McLaurin is the WR1, has been the WR1, and will probably stay the WR1 for a while, but Jaden Daniels needs more, needs a second receiver defenses have to respect who can do the job when the double team rolls to McLaurin, who opens up the entire field. And on the projected free agency market, there was one name shining brighter than the rest: Alec Pierce. Pierce is one of those receivers with the physical profile modern teams love. Size, speed, contested catchability, a weapon in the vertical game that stretches defenses, and the Commanders had this player on the radar, because here's the problem, fam. The Indianapolis Colts are doing everything they can to make sure Pierce never hits the open market. ESPN is reporting through Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano that the Colts have made it clear to Pierce that this player will be a Colt in 2026, either on a franchise tag or on a long-term contract. And that technically takes Pierce out of Washington's plans before the game even starts. But here is where the drama gets messy and fun, because the Colts' dilemma is not simple. The specific situation they are dealing with in Indianapolis is almost identical to what the New York Giants went through a few years back. They have their quarterback, Daniel Jones, the same Daniel Jones from the Giants, and they have their top wideout, Alec Pierce. And the question keeping them up at night is, who gets the tag if there has to be a choice? Because the franchise tag for Pierce would run around $27 million, while a tag for quarterback Daniel Jones would be $43.9 million. Those are massive numbers for an organization that has to be strategic with its cap. Commanders to hire Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. And here's the part of this story I find absolutely fascinating. If the Colts decide to tag Jones but cannot get a long-term deal done, Alec Pierce has indicated that this could become a problem too. Those two have a good relationship as teammates, and Pierce wants to know that the quarterback will be around. If the QB future is shaky, that affects how Pierce sees a future in Indy. On the other hand, if the Colts tag Pierce but lock in a long-term deal with Jones, then Pierce could be stuck on a tag while working on a contract that everybody already knows is going to be one of the biggest receiver deals on the market this year. Back in November, the projection was $20 million. The number now is higher. Commanders to hire Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. Rah! This is a high-end corporate telenovela. I love it. For the Commanders, the direct implication is obvious and a little painful. If the Colts execute their plan correctly, whether with a tag or a long-term deal, Pierce never reaches free agency. And Adam Peters, who has a known history of not wanting to jump into bidding wars that spiral out of control, probably is not going to throw a full superstar contract at a player who right now does not have true superstar production. Pierce is good, but this is the kind of player whose value depends a lot on system and quarterback. So what does Washington do if Pierce is not available? This is where the real creative work starts for the front office. There are other names in the receiver market that could work. The Hogs Haven analysis mentions that the Commanders need multiple outside additions in free agency. The free agent cornerback list is long, but on the receiver side, there are also options that become interesting depending on how far the Commanders are willing to go with the checkbook. What is clear is that the Alec Pierce to Washington narrative a lot of fans had in mind this offseason is in real danger of never happening. And that forces Peters to have a plan B, a plan C, and probably even a plan D, because this receiver market is not waiting around and free agency opens in 10 days. March 11th is coming, and the Commanders have to have answers for that hole next to McLaurin. Because Jaden Daniels cannot depend on one receiver all year. We already learned that the hard way in 2025. And the most interesting part of this whole thing, fam, is that the Colts situation is exactly the kind of organizational dysfunction that can create unexpected openings. If Indianapolis does not get a deal done before March 11th, if for some reason the plan falls apart and Pierce hits the market, Washington has to be ready to move in seconds. Offer ready, cap space mapped out, and the willingness to be aggressive if that window opens even for 48 hours. That is what separates front offices that build contenders from the ones that are always watching other teams walk away with the prizes. Let raise hail, this plays out the right way for us. Jaden Daniels deserves it, the fans deserve it, and if Pierce gets loose, Peters better not hesitate for even a second. All right, fam, that was the full March 1st, 2026 picture for the Washington Commanders. Javon Hargrave about to be available and perfectly aligned with Durante Jones's scheme. David Montgomery as a real trade option who could transform the ground game and juice up Jaden Daniels' attack. And the Alec Pierce drama stuck in the Colts' dilemma, with Washington watching from the outside and hoping that window cracks open. 10 days, fam. 10 days until free agency opens and everything really starts moving. This is the offseason that decides if the Commanders are building something real or just becoming the same old Commanders that always make us suffer. I believe Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and now Durante Jones have what it takes to get this right. But the moves have to come, not tomorrow, now. If you made it all the way here, bro, you are the real one. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and let me know down in the comments. Would you pull the trigger on a David Montgomery trade? Would you sign Hargrave the day that player gets cut loose? And most importantly, do you think Pierce makes it to Washington or Indy keeps that player locked in? I want to read your takes down there. Raise hail, fam. See you in the next video.